Hello folks, I'm Bonnie Jones Reynolds. Welcome to Word Game, where we examine the word games, the spin that the powers that be invent to deceive and confuse us, to convince us of what they wish us to believe, how they wish us to view the world, and to control us. In this and the preceding half hour, which can be viewed on YouTube, we are examining the word game humanitarian aid. And we are examining the truth in regard to 2 centuries of abuse and exploitation of the people of Haiti by white Western powers. Actually, it is 5 centuries of abuse and exploitation. That started in 1492, when Columbus landed there and named the island that is now the Dominican Republic and Haiti, Hispaniola. He found there an indigenous people, the Taino. These Indians were immediately enslaved, worked literally to death, and soon became extinct, except for some few who managed to escape to the mountains. The last of the Tainos died in the early 1700s. In about 1670, the French West India Company took control of the western end of Hispaniola, what is now Haiti. In about 1697, the French began importing slaves from Africa, tiny Haiti accounting for 1/3 of the entire slave trade between Africa and the New World. Louis XIV actually enacted some laws meant to protect the slaves and provide for their humane treatment. Unfortunately, he forgot to include provisions regulating the administration of punishment. The personal secretary of Henri Christophe, which secretary had lived much of his life as a slave, wrote of the treatment of slaves, quote, "Have they, the French plantation owners, not hung up men with heads downward, drowned them in sacks, crucified them on planks, buried them alive, crushed them in mortars? Have they not forced them to eat excrement? And having flayed them with a lash, have they not cast them alive to be devoured by worms, or onto anthills, or lashed them to stakes in the swamp to be devoured by mosquitoes? Have they not thrown them into boiling cauldrons of cane syrup? Have they not put men and women inside barrels, studded with spikes, and rolled them down mountainsides into the abyss? Have they not consigned these miserable blacks to man-eating dogs, until the latter, sated by human flesh, left the mangled victims to be finished off with the bayonet? Yet the slaves of Hispaniola wanted freedom. What ingrates! Many escaped to the mountains, formed bands, and from the 1750s onward there were attempts to revolt. From then until 1804, when the slaves finally won the struggle and declared independence, sporadic bloody warfare was waged. The situation during this time was confused in the extreme, with the eastern end of the island being ruled by the Spanish and the western end by the French, and the 2 sections finally dividing into separate countries. Confusing the issue further was the fact that some blacks were given freedom, the rights of inheritance, and high social status, to the extent that many of them owned their own plantations and had their own slaves. These free blacks were the gens de couleur, people of color. They were the children and grandchildren of the white French planters, for, under French law, a sort of marriage was allowed between the races. Many of these people of mixed race sided with the French and fought to keep their holdings and their fully black African slaves. Only toward the end of the struggle, when the laws that had given them freedom and status were changed, and when the military and governors sent by Napoleon reigned a sort of terror on all blacks, half-breed, mulatto, or African, did most of the gens de couleur begin to fight with the slaves. The victory that was finally achieved in 1804 was the first successful slave revolution. The country was named Haiti from the Taino word for their country, Haiti, land of mountains. One might have thought that America and France, two countries which had recently revolted against their own overlords and won independence, would at least respect the achievement of the newly free Haitians. But no, had the successful revolutionaries been white, it would have been a different story. But blacks were to be shown no mercy. Haiti was subjected to a crippling embargo by France and the United States. The U.S. sanctions lasted 59 years until 1863. It also took the U.S. until 1862 to recognize Haiti as a country. Why? Because the United States itself was enslaving millions of blacks. To recognize Haiti might have given encouragement to those slaves and to abolitionists who cried for their freedom. So that recognition of Haiti came only after our southern states had seceded. Then, in 1825, attempting to end the crippling embargoes leveled against them by France, the U.S., and now England, and with the threat of other Western nations joining in, and also under threat from the French military, Haiti agreed to pay reparations to French slave owners for the loss of their slaves. That's right. The slaves who had so valiantly fought for and won their freedom were forced to pay their former masters for that freedom in order to ward off increasing embargoes. Note, however, that the United States did not join others in releasing their stranglehold. The U.S. did not lift its embargo for another 38 years. The price extorted from the slaves in today's dollars was over $21 billion. To start paying it, Haiti was forced to take huge loans from French and U.S. banks. The principal was subsequently bargained down somewhat, but it took Haiti 122 years to pay off all of those loans and the interest thereon. A major loan from a U.S. bank was finally paid off in 1947. After that, the World Bank and the IMF took over the calculated game of keeping Haiti buried in debt, to keep the country in poverty, its people easy pickings for the arrival of American businesses and corporate sweatshops.